Our story begins not with a hero but with a tyrant. In the 8th century, the land of Hispania was a jewel tarnished by oppression. King Roderick, a usurper who had seized the throne, the betrayal, ruled with an iron fist. His castle stood tall, but the people lived in fear. Farmers saw their harvests taken as brutal taxes, with nobles whispered in dark corridors, fearing the king executioners. This was land where justice has been exiled. The people's prayers seemed to vanish. The cold, unfeeling sky, the cried of undeliverer, unaware that their pleas were being carried across the waves to a land where faith and justice were pillars of power. That land was North Africa, a beacon under the Umayyad Caliphate. Here in the city of Kairouan, Governor Musa bin Nusayr presided over a civilization of stunning progress. Great libraries housed scholars who advanced medicine, astronomy, while bustling markets thrived on trade and fairness. It was in Musa's magnificent court amidst the scene of intense and the sound of flowing water that messenger from the dark world arrived. Count Julian, a Viscount noble, his face etched with despair, fell to his knees. He spoke of Roderick's crimes of a violated daughter and kingdom ripe for liberation. He presented not just a political proposal but more plea. Deeply placed a heavy burden on Musa's shoulder. He was a man of God and master of statecraft. For days he scheduled himself with his most trusted advisors in war room. Maps of the Hispanic coasts were unfurled. They debated of risk of naval expedition, the strength of the reckless gamble, his Gothic armies, and the moral weight of their decision. Was this a righteous intervention or a reckless gamble? The air was thick with contention, but eventually a consensus emerged. The risk was great, but the command to establish justice and relief oppression was greater. The die was cast. The Muslims would answer the call. But such a destiny needed a singular man to bear it. Musa needed a commander who was both a lion in battle and scholar in faith. His choice was Tariq bin Ziyad, a Berber formidable presence. Tariq's life was a legend in the making. Stories spoke of a man who had risen from humble origins through sheer will and intellect. When summoned, Tariq stood before Musa not with arrogance but with calm, unwavering certainty. In a private chamber under the soft light of an ornate lantern, Musa offered him the command. I give you the vanguard, Tariq. He said, you are the point of my spear. Be a guidance to the people and courage to the tyrants. Without hesitation, Tariq accepted the weight of his destiny. Word spread through the barracks and stables of Caravan. An army was to be forged for a mission that could echo in history. Tariq personally oversaw the selection of 7,000 warriors. These were not mere soldiers, they were horsemen who could read the desert winds, archers whose eyes were as sharp as eagles, and infantrymen whose faith was shield. The docks became a hive of activity as supplies were loaded onto the waiting ships, sacks of grain, bundles of arrows, and sharpened swords. The air buzzed with a potent mix of anticipation and prayer as families said farewell, not knowing if they would see their sons and husbands again. One night, when the moon was a mere silver in the sky, the fleet set sail. The wooden ships, crowded with men and horses, were tossed like toys on the treacherous water of strait. For many, it was their first time at sea. They battled not only the waves but also the sickness and fear that churned in their stomachs. Tariq moved among them, a pillar of strength, his voice steady as he led them in prayer, their unfilled words a defiant chant against the raw wind. They were a speck of faith in vast unscaring ocean. Then after what felt like an eternity, a cry came from the cow's nest land. As dawn broke, the mist related to reveal a sight that stole their breath. A colossal limestone rock lowering over the coastline like a fortress built by the hands of God itself. It was Jabal al Fath, the mountain of victory. As their ship gently plowed ground onto the sandy beach, the warriors dismembered their feet, touching a new world. Tariq was the first to climb to a high point, his eyes scanning the lush green land that stretched to the horizon. He knew this rock would be stronghold, their first foothold in land they would call Al Andalus. The journey was over. The true test was about to begin.